You're tuning into.
You're now tuning into
CodenameZ. Welcome back. This is week. What is this? Week 4?
4. I think so. Yeah, week 4.
Welcome to week 4 of the podcast. I am Basil Anthony.
I'm Tyrone.
And let's just get right into the topic.
I see what you did there.
See what I did there.
That was funny.
So we're going to talk about one it used to be one of my favorite rappers, but not anymore. DaBaby and a little bit of cancel culture.
Yeah, I think we're going to use this topic to get into cancel culture and basically, do we think cancel culture is overreaching? Is it becoming too much? Or is it exactly what we need right now? So, I mean, I guess we can kind of start by giving a little background about what DaBaby said and what got him into the mess. The mess.
Do you see on Twitter, it's called, like, it's like hashtag duh apology.
Really?
Like,
yo, they out of pocket.
I love Black Twitter, because, like, not duh apology.
The apology.
Duh apology that he could kept.
Right.
Because it was trash. But let's
that first
on.
one. The second one by his PR.
The first one was actually written by him.
Yeah, you can tell.
The second was written by Stacy.
Stacy and PR.
Stacy and PR wrote that because I know he didn't say that. So let's get into...
Give him the benefit of the doubt. He may have. Okay. Anyway, let's say
with what working.
Let's just get into what he said. So the two major comments that got him into trouble with the LGBTQ community and just kind of the world in general. The first was regarding HIV and AIDS. So starting, where was he at? Was this Lollapalooza or was this? No, this was Rolling Loud. So pretty much he was performing and he opened his set with a series of, I guess he thought crowd starters, like to get
crowd
the crowd
starters that didn't pertain to him per se.
Right. So pretty much he started by saying, put your cell phone light up if you blank. So, pretty much trying to say like, okay, if you're doing this thing that he finds cool or decent or a good thing, put your cell phone lighters up. So the first thing he says is, put your cell phone light up if, let me make sure I get the quote. If you didn't show up today with HIV, AIDS, any of them deadly sexually transmitted diseases that will make you die in 2-3 weeks, then put your cell phone light up. Now,
so I'm trying to figure out where he got that information.
Right.
Is this the 1950s?
Right. But let's just get right into the second comment, then we can probably discuss them all together.
Which of the three is the least problematic? But let's go.
Right. Because even though this is a explicit show, I think we're going to blink certain words because we don't want it to be too crazy.
This is also on YouTube, and let's not get demonetized before we even get monetized.
So pretty much, he said, what was the first one? Okay, ladies, if you're
meow,
you know what that means. Smells like water. Put your cell phone. Oh wait, put a cell phone. Light them up. Okay, but that one didn't really get him into any trouble. That was just weird. I guess I don't know.
I feel like Meg or like City Girls could have said that and it would have sounded better. But coming from DaBaby,
it was kind of
very strange.
Right. But then he says, fellas, if you ain't sucking. Okay, now first of all, not that sound effect. What the?
We're leaving it in the podcast. Thank you.
Oh my gosh! If you ain't sucking blank in the parking lot, put your cell phone light up. Keep it real.
And then that DJ who's like,
oh yeah,
because
some of y'all
DJ Save or whatever, like whoever,
some of y'all be suspect.
Some of y'all sus. Da, 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 da. I'm like, were you out there watching it? You saw it go down,
right? So it's just, so I don't know. First of all, do you think that those comments were cancel worthy? Let's just probably get right to that.
I don't know if cancel worthy was what I would say. I think they were really inappropriate. Definitely inappropriate. I'm like not. They were really inappropriate.
Right.
And I just don't think that was something to hype the crowd up. You wouldn't hear like, I just feel like that's not a crowd hyping type of statement to make.
Right.
Like I just think it was ill placed. It shouldn't have been said by him.
Right.
I don't think cancel worthy is the best word for it, but I just think it was really inappropriate, and I think he should have said something way different.
Right. And it's just like, first of all, like you said, a lot of people made the comment of just like, it was so unnecessary. Like, it was the most random things to say, and it was so unnecessary. And it's like, especially when you're talking about HIV or a sexually transmitted disease, for people or individuals who are dealing with that type of thing, like that's a very sensitive and it's a very serious matter that probably shouldn't even be discussed upon in a performance like that, to get a call and response. Like it should have stayed out of that. And then to spread inaccurate information regarding HIV and AIDS, basically saying that someone would die in 3 weeks, which I don't know if you were looking at a health documentary from like the 19 whatevers, but
1800s maybe,
right?
Because I don't know.
But that's not really the truth anymore. Not really. It isn't the truth anymore for people who have HIV or AIDS. With the current medicines that have, like, most people live pretty much normal lives with those type of diseases and illnesses. And then the whole sucking in the park, it's just, it didn't make sense. Yeah, it's just like, first of all, I mean, to give some context, because I think one of the big reason why he got into trouble was his response afterwards. He pretty much said that he understood why his HIV comments were probably insensitive and wrong, but his other comments, he was pretty much saying that, like, he didn't say anything wrong about the LGBTQ community and that he has nothing against them. You know, like, that's a lot of his fans. And apparently he was dancing the whole night. He was getting lit with the dude with a crop top on in the front row. So I'm like, first of all, oh, well, keep your mouth shut, because that could have possibly got him canceled too, because then people would have said, like, oh, so a man who wears a crop top is automatically a part of the LGBTQ community, but
which we know is not true. You know, like, there's a lot of fashions out there, a lot of straight men that I see in crop tops, and listen,
it's a lot of football players now. That's a trend. I mean, everybody has their opinion on basically what it is or whatever, but there's a lot of fashion trends that, like, are just popping up nowadays that are kind of quote unquote gender fluid, if you would say. But even though most fashions are just, all of this stuff is pretty much made up by society that just randomly chose which things are for guys and which things are for girls. So it's kind of hard to even say gender fluid in that way. But anyway, so he didn't, and this is where I gave him a little, I was discussing this with, like, a family member, and I was saying sometimes when you really don't have hate in your heart towards a certain group, this may be the case, you really do become, like, defensive or hurt when someone tries to, like, portray you as a certain way. But I'm like, if that really is the case that you said, like, you don't have anything against the LGBTQ community and that's a lot of your fans and stuff, then maybe just hear what they were saying, hear what the community is saying to you, and just say, like, just apologize and move on. Because pretty much the comments, if you're saying put your lighter up if you're a guy and wasn't sucking in a parking lot, it's pretty much already know, like, the group that you're targeting. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
even his response to it was like, oh, you know, my LGBT, you know, TQ friends and family who, like, listen to me, they not doing that in the parking lot. They had to go in, like, good hotel. And I was just like, you're not making it. He's like, they don't do it in the parking lot. You have to go to a 5-star hotel, X, Y, and Z. So, again, I was listening to another podcast about this, and it's like, how do you know that? Is there a survey out of, like, where do you suck at the park, like, the parking lot, the park?
That's the case, and that's the point. If that was the point that you were trying to make about sucking in the parking lot is just dirty in general, having sex in it, if that was the point that you were trying to make in a funny way, then it shouldn't have been directed at guys doing that to another guy. It should have just been, put your lighter up if you didn't have sex in the parking lot just now, or something. Yeah. Like, or, you know what I'm saying? So it just seemed, I don't know, the whole situation, it's just like,
it was real funky. I was not a fan of it, and it sucks because I was a really big fan of DaBaby, and it's like, it just irritated me because it's like, why is this something you have to say? But at the same time, I think that his comments kind of, I don't know, what is the word for it, but it kind of, like, puts a negative taste in someone's mouth when it comes to that community, because now, they're looking at that community, the LGBT, like, they're looking at that community like, oh, they be in a parking lot, or, it's like, it's again, so it's like, so now you're, like, putting this spotlight on a whole community over something that one should not have said, because you're not a part of that community, as far as we know. We don't know, but, like, you're not a part of that community, so why say something? If I'm a rapper, I'm not going to go and say, put your horchatas up in the air, because that's not my tradition. That's not my community. Right. I don't even know what it, like, because it's like, that's not what I should be saying. Right. I should stick to what what I am, what I am representing.
Yeah, very true.
So he could say, if you love DaBaby, put your lighters up.
Right.
That makes sense.
That could have been like, or if you hear to
if
get
you're
turned
under
up
5'4",
tonight,
put your lighters up.
Right. Like he could have said a number of things that, and it's just, I don't know. To me, it's becoming like a lot of people complain about cancel culture that is just like, it's so harsh and they cancel everybody for anything. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if you're an artist or a celebrity that knows that now, it's like, come on now, like smarten up a bit too about the things that you say. And that's the issue, is that oftentimes when people say cancel worthy or what people think is cancel worthy things, they really don't realize how what they said is cancel worthy. You get what I'm saying? So instead of like, sometimes, not all the time, because I'm about to say some people use it as a cop up. I did not know. Oh, so you white and been living in this country for how many years and didn't know that the N-word is something that some people don't want you to say? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think we need to put an explosion on that one.
Right.
Come on, let's boom boom.
So it's like, okay, I don't want to keep hearing the BS. And then it's like, if you don't know so much, educate yourself. You live in a world with so many different people that you have to interact with on a daily basis. Learn something about people other than yourself. Like,
and my thing is, again, apologize. So, being from Philly, there's a lot of things that people would call people who like live here. And for a while, there were some terms I didn't know were offensive or considered racist.
Right.
You go to a Chinese store, you know what they call them.
Yeah.
Or you go to and I didn't know that. I never personally said it to but like I know when I went to school, I think I made reference and I said one of those slurs, and one of my friends had to check me on it and was like, that's inappropriate. And I mean, at that time, listen, call me stupid. I didn't know.
Right.
I never Googled it. I just, no one's ever said anything negative about it. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
So I called it, say this name. But it's like, once I got told that, I'm like, oh, wow. So it's like, I mean, I'm not on this major stage, but to me, it's like, okay, wow. Didn't know that was inappropriate. Didn't know that was offensive.
Right.
Apologize for that. Or even if I see something I posted on Facebook and it's like, oh, you have a memory from 10 years ago, and I'm like, whoa, what did I say?
Right.
Like, I'll go ahead and delete that, take it away. But the same thing is like, you just have to be smart enough to just be like, you know what, didn't know that this was offensive, or didn't know this would make you feel some type of way, so I am sorry, won't say it again.
Right.
End of situation.
End of story. Yeah, and it's just, and that's the thing, is like, no one expects someone to be perfect and know all things. Like, we all have said or done something that could possibly be seen as like offensive to someone, but that's the point, is to recognize that you might have biases, and it's to just have an open ear to what someone, especially when you're not in a certain community and a certain community is telling you that something offended them. Just listen. Like, you don't know their lived experience.
It's not your time to shine to say, well, you shouldn't be offended by this.
Right.
That's not your time to shine.
Because at the point when people are calling you out, they are saying what you said was disrespectful, but they're not yet trying to get to the point where they're probably saying you're a horrible person, or all these things, like, if you respond in a very willing to learn, kind of like humanistic way. But when you double down and don't want to apologize and double down, that's when people start to get a different perception of the type of person you are.
And that's when I think a lot of the quote-unquote cancel culture begins, because, again, I think we're going to get back into this soon, but cancel culture, to me, everyone gets so offended and so upset by that. Right. At the same time, anybody anywhere can say, I can say Betty White is canceled right now.
Right.
I'm not going to start a new hashtag on Twitter. No one cares what I'm talking about.
Right.
But it's like... So it's not like just because somebody said that person's canceled doesn't mean they're canceled. Right. But I think the way that you actually get into being canceled is when you double down on something and continue to be problematic and continue to say these same things. Well, now, yes, you are canceled because there are many, many people who are saying you're wrong in this situation. We don't want to hear this. Exactly. Apologize for it. That's what they're saying. That's what truly being canceled is. Being canceled is not just saying canceled. So when you get upset about cancel culture, it's not like just because, one Gen Z said you're canceled. Right. The whole world's like, well, guess we got to get rid of Betty White now. That's not how that works.
Oh my gosh. But we're going to take a small break and we're going to get more into cancel culture overall, pretty much, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about cancel a lot more.
All right.
So come get canceled with us, with our sponsorships. Let's go. All right.
This week's podcast is sponsored by BS Incorporated, which sounds exactly how it is, BS, because we don't have a sponsorship. Please sponsor us, and see you next week.
Okay, and we're back. So we're going to jump right back into talking about cancel culture. And one thing that I kind of wanted to just bring up, related to apologies and the whole DaBaby thing, is that often in cancel culture, or just in life in general, I think this is what people have to understand. Sometimes people may say or do something and they may not have meant to harm someone or meant it in a disrespectful way. But what people have to recognize is that just because you didn't mean to hurt someone doesn't mean you're absolved or you don't have to give an apology, because it's the effect of what you're saying. So if someone's coming to you and say, you hurt me because X, Y, and Z, and this just goes beyond cancel culture. This goes in friendships, relationships, whatever. If someone says that you hurt their feelings, point blank and period, you can explain that you didn't mean it that way, but point blank and period, you owe them an apology, because at the end of the day, you hurt someone, and you hurt someone that you claim that you care about or that you're cool with. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. It's like, it's the effect that you're apologizing for. And then you can, I think, like, say, I really did not mean that, blah, blah, blah. But I think an apology is still owed if you did hurt someone.
Yeah, it was actually funny. Me and my mother were watching Below Deck, and there was an episode. I'm just going to say this really quickly. It was an episode, this guy who was on the show, he's trash. But at one point, he was kind of drunk, and he went back into a room. They were in, at a dinner or so.
Right.
And he, slapped the girl in the face.
Oh, my gosh.
But he was like, oh, a love tap. Haha, it's funny. And the entire table got pissed with him. And the girl was just, traumatized.
Right.
You just slapped me, in front of everyone.
Right.
And he just, at that point when he was drunk, he just kept going back, oh, no, it was a love tap. It was a love tap. And he wouldn't apologize for it. Right. And, the next day, she brought it up to him. And he, even though he apologized, he just kept reiterating, oh, but it was just a love tap. And I'm like, see, this is where you're messing up.
Right.
This girl says, hey, you hurt me. You hit me in the face.
Right.
You can't come back with, oh, I'm sorry that I hit you too hard, but it was just a love tap. She didn't want a love tap.
Right. She didn't want your hands on her face.
You can't just slap. You can't slap someone. You can't say something, and when someone says, this is offensive, this hurt me, or X, Y, and Z, you can't just jump into, well, I meant it by this, and I'm mad that you're upset about it. Right. This is not your time to shine.
Right, exactly.
But let's get into actually cancel culture itself, because I think it definitely does have a negative sound to it, and I think a lot of people are like, oh my god, here comes cancel culture. But my thing is, a lot of times people who get canceled are for the right reasons.
Yeah.
R. Kelly, true. I feel like he should really be canceled.
Even though there's a section of people where he's not canceled at, and they don't understand the cancelization. The
Boondocks said it right, because...
Including Mr. Bill Cosby. Some people in our community, what we're talking about.
I'm not talking about Bill Cosby, excuse me.
Thank
you so much.
People, some people in our community don't understand why what he did was possibly wrong. All they want to keep talking about is the Huxtables, which is a fictional character.
Again, but Bill Cosby is not Mr. Huxtable.
Right.
That's a character.
Right.
Okay? It's a character. Okay?
Oh, gosh. But anyway, that was just a side note. I just thought I'd point that out. But,
yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, I don't know. Cancel culture, I mean, it does, like I said, it has a negative connotation to it. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of times cancel culture is necessary when it comes to, doing something horrible. But I also think that people should also have the opportunity to not be canceled. I feel sometimes I do believe the cancel culture is too quick. Someone sees Lil Nas X posted this one thing when he was 16 years old on Twitter.
Right.
It's okay, again, we all posted or said something stupid when we were a teen.
Right.
And at the same time, we're not, what is the old saying? They don't cast stones when you're in a glass house.
Right. Right.
A lot of people are casting stones, and they're not in a glass house, they're in an open field. Because it's you're oh my god, I can't believe he said X, Y, and Z. Oh, he needs to be canceled. But it's look back at what you said to people. Look back to...
Look what you said 5 minutes ago.
Hey. Speak on it. But look back to what you posted. Look back to what you said.
Right.
We've all said or done something that has been offensive. But at the same time, it's if it were to come out or like, you know, someone's supposed to like deep dive into like a Twitter of mine and see I said something inappropriate or something like that, I would just go into, okay, acknowledge it, apologize for it, move on past it, because that's not who I am anymore. Right. But I think a lot of times it irritates me when people are like, oh no, they said it and they must have meant it, so let's just cancel them all together. No, you have to give somebody the opportunity. But at the same time, the opportunity to come back from it is not just apologize and do the same exact thing. Right. When you get quote unquote canceled, you need to, one, apologize for it, and then also, apology is nothing without actions. So if you're canceled, you know, if you were canceled back in 2008 because you said something horrible about the LGBTQ plus community, or you said something horrible about black people, you have to be like, oh, that's not who I am anymore. And at the same time, you have to also advocate for the positive side of it, you know? Right. There's some things I feel like you sometimes can't come back from. Sometimes blackface, I feel like sometimes you really can't come back from, depending on how, depending on the, okay, well, cancel me. But like, I think depending on the way you did, like, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, can an actress put on like a darker bronzer because she was being the girl with the bantu knots from Orange is the New Black. Okay, it was offensive, but I don't know if it was like she was doing it to be racist. It was because like, I want to be this character. Right. I don't think her intentions were to like, I'm gonna go make fun of this old monkey girl, ha ha ha. Right. It was just like, oh, okay, I wanted to be this girl. I wanted to be, you know, I want to be Nicki Minaj, so I put a little darker bronzer on. It's different when it's like you're painting your face entirely black.
Right. But even with the bronzer thing, though, I will say, once again, like I said about education, you should know that you're going to get flack. Like, it's just certain things stay away from. Like,
you have to think of the time. You have to think, and that's where it kind of gets confusing.
I have been plenty of white people with Halloween. I never painted my face white or used a foundation. No, because I want to hear it.
I'm speaking. Thank you. But no, don't you dare.
I was about to boo him, y'all.
You're not gonna boo. I'm just saying, I think that at that time you just have to kind of see the atmosphere. And that's all I'm saying. Right. I just think that some things were seen as appropriate for the most part back then, but now we're seeing like, ooh, that was actually kind of, you know, I was watching an old episode of Golden Girls and they used a word for a little person or a small person. I was like, whoa, they said it back then. But I'm not going to go cancel Betty White and B. Arthur and Estelle Getty. Right. Because at that time, and that was a term that was used to describe that person. Right. But again, okay, hold on, everybody. Before we don't throw tomatoes. Again, saying that word versus saying the N-word is very different because the N-word was never a good thing. Let's just put that out there. N-word was never a good way to describe somebody. Right. But, because you never saw someone identify as an N-word. But you saw someone identify as the M slur when it's also like a smaller person. They would, oh, that's what I have. Okay, cool. That's what we kind of went on. But at the same time, it's like we've evolved now that's not a term that's to be used anymore. So I think you can come back from it because it was like, okay, at that time, this is what it was called. Right. I'm going to switch it up now because I can't say it anymore because they said, okay, that's offensive. Okay, cool. Right. Don't use it anymore. Right. But I think when you can't go back and say, oh, I'm so sorry I said it, but then at the same time you're still saying the slurs, or you're still, you know, or you're still doing stuff that can be seen as cancel worthy. Right. Then I think that cancel culture needs to kind of come for you.
Yeah. And then that's like when you said evolve, like I know we have had a debate oftentimes about cancel culture and comedy and how a lot of people feel like people are being so sensitive, like they're a comedian, like you're ruining comedy. And I always kind of be like, I personally feel like you shouldn't tell certain jokes. Like if you're not a part of that community, I feel like that's just personally kind of how I feel. Yes, in certain situations. Like now, one thing, like I said, if you are clearly and have always been clearly maybe an advocate or an ally for this certain group of people, and you're always like you're at the marches and stuff and whatever it may be, and you're making a joke that's kind of, and that's also like the type of joke. Are you laughing with or laughing at? Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a difference. And a lot of the comedy that we used to see, I feel like leaned a little bit more towards laughing at. And that's why I feel like you have to be careful about speaking on things when you're not a part of that community, because it can automatically give a feeling of laughing at, because it's like, how can you personally identify You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, like I mean, like some of my favorite comedians, like Bernie Mac. He definitely had a couple of stand-ups. I mean, his show was almost revolving around some of his stand-up, but it was parts of his stand-up where he was definitely saying something that was negative against the LGBTQ community.
Right.
But in the same token of like, if you go back and listen to what he was saying, he was making fun of, I think it was like his nephew or so. He was making fun of him for being effeminate, but at the same time, he's also kind of doubling down on the fact that he's still my family. I still love him, and I will do anything for him.
Right.
But I'm making fun of him. Ha ha. But at the same time, y'all can't make fun of him. Y'all can't call him his name because that's my nephew. I'm saying whatever I want to say about him.
Right. And like you say, because it's like his family member, and he made it clear that he loves him. You know what I'm saying?
It's like you're making fun of someone, but at the same time, you're also letting them know it's like, I'm not making fun of it because I hate him. I'm making fun of it because it's a funny thing to do.
Right.
But at the same time, that's my family. I love him. I support everything that he does, X, Y, and Z. But at the same time, I also think that a lot of older comedy, you gotta look back, like Joan Rivers. I think for the most part, Joan Rivers was kind of funny. Right. Then she started some things where like, okay, this is just flat offensive. But at the same time, you have to think that that's what an insult comic is. Like Howard Stern, even though he's, I don't like him, but he's an insult or a shock jock. You know, you think him, you think Wendy Williams, you think Joan Rivers, you think Bianca Del Rio, who's like a drag queen, a comedian.
Right.
That's what their comedy is, to just like kind of out the box, shock.
Right.
You know, so it's like, I don't know, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, I don't know, because I feel like, I don't know, it's just because someone was trying to joke doesn't make it right. I don't know. It's just, because I feel like there's certain people, like, I feel like you kind of understand more of the nuance, but then it's some people that I see on, like, Twitter and stuff that just plain, because the person is a comedian, they be like, they should be able to get away with it. I'm like, no, because why were they making... Because you can make jokes out of hate. If a white
comedian walked on stage and said, so N-words are stupid, right?
Right.
That's not a joke.
That's not a joke, right?
That's not the joke.
That's not a joke. It's not funny. It's not anything.
It's inappropriate.
Right.
So there's a difference when you come on the stage, and if it's like... If a white comedian made fun of black people in a certain way that was like, oh, ha ha... Like, you just walked up and said, so anyway, there's a lot of black people in here. Where's the watermelon and the grape soda? That's not a joke.
Yeah, you're going to get a shoe thrown at your head or a fist. Probably.
Okay, let's not talk about throwing shoes because the baby got triggered. But yeah, like, that's not the joke.
Right.
But if it was a joke and it was kind of, like, centered around this situation.
Right.
We get it.
Right.
It makes sense because it's funny. But you can't, like... Being a shock jock or an insult comic is not walking up and just being offensive.
Right.
That's not how that works, you know. Right. It's, where are the jokes? Bring the jokes.
Right. So, unfortunately, I have to cancel this conversation because we have 2 minutes to get through our weekly rant. So, are we going to do... All right, I have one that's really quick.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Right. In certain areas, people, calm your nerve. Stop being so just over dramatic about... I just be out and about, and it just seems like in certain areas, I don't know if it's because what's going on in society and just a lot of things, but people just seem so overly aggressive and just ready to fight about everything and every little thing. And it's just like, calm down, relax yourself. Do you need an Apple Watch that tell you when to breathe? Like, just relax yourself, and everything will be all right.
This podcast is sponsored by Apple Watch.
Yep. Apple, you heard that? I just gave you a shout out to about 5 people, so we better get a sponsor.
So I want 5 Apple products in the mail.
So that's just my weekly rant. Just calm down. Do you have one?
I have a rant, and I'm just going to say it like this. We're in the middle of the coronavirus. Okay? We're in the middle of a Pandora Express. Okay? This is even before the Pandora. Back up away from people. Get out of my personal space. Right. Personal space is a thing.
Right.
Get away from me. There's been so many times before COVID was a thing, while COVID is a thing, and whenever COVID is over. Get away from me. Right. Stop standing so close to me. Why are you so close?
Right.
Why are you on the speakerphone and why are you in my ear? Back up.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I concur.
What is going... It's personal space.
Yeah.
I wanted 6 feet before 6 feet was a rule.
Right.
Give me 6 feet. Get out of my neck. Go away.
Right. I definitely agree with that. But guys, thanks for listening and tuning in next week. I think our next topic is actually about COVID. That was a good segue into the next week's topic. So stay in tune for that.
You're not afraid of Cronova.
Oh gosh. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.